the longest running study on happiness in history, where they interviewed thousands of people over the course of 3 generations, trying to find patterns in all of these different walks of life of what really is it that makes people truly happy. And it wasn't what you think. It's not how much you exercise. It's not how much you meditate. It's not how much you achieve or how much you succeed and how much money you make. It's about how good. All right, welcome to episode 4 of Brolosophy. I am Mike Fio.
And I'm Nick Fio.
And we are the Fio Bros.
And our intention with this podcast is super simple: to share practical wisdom for a happier, more fulfilled life.
Yeah. And this episode in particular is part 4 of a 5-part series on this book right here, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware.
4th one.
Yeah, we're on our 4th regret. And to give you a little background on the book, it was written by this Australian woman who spoke to over 1,000 people on their deathbeds, taking care of them. And throughout all that time, she had some time to reflect. She compiled the top 5 most common regrets. So today, we're specifically talking about regret number 4. So that leads us into the major question of this episode, which is, Nick, what is the 4th most common regret of the dying?
Regret number 4 of the dying.
Let's hear it.
Is I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is a powerful one because I think we as a society are experiencing a loneliness epidemic.
I agree.
Like, it's a real thing where government officials are now getting involved. The UK recently hired someone called a loneliness minister.
The hell is that?
Basically, someone who's just in charge of leading the effort to bring awareness to the loneliness that's in society and helping people to reach out to each other.
Wow.
Basically, that's her job. There's a government role to stop this.
Why do you think people are so lonely?
Well, I think the pandemic obviously fueled a lot of this, right? It literally pulled us apart and said,
stay in your house.
Stay in your 4x4, like stay in your 4 walls and don't leave, right? And we weren't made for that, right? And then I think that also causes a lot of anxiety, right? Because we're humans, right? So we get used to these patterns. So now you're staying inside for a really long time. Now the thought of going outside and being around other people, there's a social anxiety that can come from that, which then will push people to say, fuck it, I'm just going to be lonely and stay here. But really what's happening, it's actually loneliness is killing people. It's killing people. So recently in the U.S., the U.S. Surgeon General released an advisory calling loneliness a new public health epidemic. The advisory states, listen to this, the advisory states that loneliness is as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and that lonely people are 50% more likely to die prematurely.
That's crazy.
Loneliness is the equivalent of 15 cigarettes a day.
What do we do about this?
It's interesting, right? Because you think in a world where we're actually on, like, quote unquote, more connected than ever, right? With social media, being able to talk to your friends, text people, send FaceTime, video, all this. It's still not enough, I think, because it's artificial connection. It's good. I mean, if you have nothing, it's good, right? I think it got us through the pandemic. But we as humans, I think we need that physical connection to another being.
Yeah, it reminds me of when Tony Robbins talks about, imagine going to a baseball game or a football game in the stadium and you're the only one in the stands. And you're watching the game in real time. All the athletes are there doing all the stuff, scoring touchdowns, and you're there alone. Like, unless you're the most diehard fan of the one team on that field, there's really no excitement. It's just like, yeah, I guess that's cool. The excitement comes from that connection of like rooting for the team or rooting against the team. It's like that camaraderie is along the same lines. But I want to take this.
Wait, let me jump on that because I there's something interesting about loneliness. Loneliness doesn't necessarily mean that you're not seeing other people
Yeah, you could be a social butterfly and still be lonely.
and still be lonely. Do you have a take on that?
Yeah, I've noticed this a lot. Like, how often on a day-to-day basis do we talk to people and really let them in? Like, really let them in. Like, when they say, "How are you?" most of the time you say, "Good, you?" But you don't fucking mean that. Even if you were miserable, you would say,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm good. How are you doing? How are the kids? Great. Yeah, my ass." That's not real. I'm not saying it needs to be every day. We need to have these deep philosophical people every day, but I think there's definitely an opportunity for a lot of us, and especially with the people that we deeply care about, our friends, our closest family, the people that we feel closest to challenge ourselves, to really like open up a little bit more. And you'd be surprised at how that other person would react to that. Because the reason we don't open up is because we think they're going to react like, "Bro, we don't talk about that here. Like, what the hell are you doing?" But 99% of the time, that's not what happens. It's like, "Whoa, like, you know what? Now that I feel that way too sometimes. Like, I get depressed too sometimes, or I feel anxious too sometimes, or I feel like I'm losing my shit. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing with my life." And you can connect like on a much deeper level where you can go home that night and at least feel like there's someone out there who really understands you, or who like you can connect with on that level. That is what I think is another opportunity that comes out of this regret.
You got some shit on your lips.
Thanks.
I agree with you in terms of the depthness. Like basically there's what you said in
I
summary.
think depthness is a word.
Okay, well, in summary, I think what I got from your long ass winded story was that you could see people every day, but if you're not having those deep conversations with them, then you very well could be that lonely person that goes home at the end of the night
Right.
and feels these feelings of loneliness, of sadness, of like there's no one else in the world but you, right? Like it's a very hard feeling to experience. I mean, I felt it when I broke my jaw and I was alone by myself. Like it's a tough feeling to sit with that loneliness. It really is.
You know what happened to me recently? I didn't even realize I was lonely. I was feeling depressed. I was feeling like really, really down, like so depressed that I didn't even feel like getting up in the morning. And I was going through my days, like trying to figure out like what the hell is wrong with me? Like everything's going pretty smoothly in my life. Like I don't really usually have a reason to feel this depressed. And then it hit me. I was like, I'm lonely. I'm not connecting with people.
Why?
I was so in my zone with work, and like I got so
I'm glad you brought this up.
I got so goal oriented. Like, you know me, I'm like a machine. Like I love my list and I love checking off my boxes. And I got so into checking off my boxes, and I was like, I love the feeling of progress. I was doing great, feeling great. That's why I was so confused. I'm like, I'm doing great. I'm hitting all my boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I feel like shit? I'm meditating every day. I'm working out every day. I'm taking care of my health too. Like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And then I realized I had completely neglected this part of my life.
Yeah.
Which was my feeling of connection to relationships.
Yeah. So I just finished watching the show Suits, which has become a viral sensation now because it went on Netflix. It's a great freaking show. You got to watch it.
You've
But
said that about a million times.
Well, then if I say it a million times, it means that it's that
next.
good. Basically, the main character of this show is this hotshot lawyer. Mm-hmm. He's a single dude that like is just he's considered the closer. He's the best in the city. He is the man, right? And all the women love him. He's the
man.
He's the man.
I get it.
But throughout the show, you see that he doesn't have a connection to many people.
Yeah.
He doesn't have, he's basically cut off his family.
That's Don Draper too.
He cuts off, like, he doesn't ever let anyone get inside him because of some deep-seated shit that they reveal in the show. But basically, it's what you were saying, right? It's he just distracted himself from feeling lonely by putting all of his energy into work. So he worked every single day from the morning till he went to bed,
Well,
right?
that's what we do. We try to mask our loneliness with achievement.
Exactly.
We think that if we achieve enough, then that'll finally win this feeling that we really
We'll
need.
deserve those friends.
Yeah,
But really,
all it needs to be is like one conversation.
I forget who said it, but it's like your friends are the people who are with you when you're taking the bus, not when you're taking the limo.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
You know, that the people that are with you, like no matter what your outside circumstances are, those are friends. Those are people that love you. They know your flaws, right? And they still love you. They still want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
That is what a real
It
friend
reminds
is.
me, we just read one of these happiness books we just read said that your closest friendships are the ones in which you actually offer the least value to them. Meaning there's a spectrum of friendship, and on one end of that spectrum is like a work acquaintance or a business acquaintance where the friendship is really rooted in the value that you provide each other. And so that's where like the friendship comes from. But on the other side of that is the total opposite. It's where you don't really provide each other with really anything at all. That's not what the relationship is about. It's just about friendship. It's just about I love you no matter what you give me or what you do for me. I just love you. I love spending time with you, and I just love connecting with you. Those are the real friends that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it comes down to trust, like friends that you can trust.
Yeah.
Loyal.
I want to touch on something else that was really interesting about this to me. We've been reading so many happiness books, just back to back to back happiness books in our book club. And
When you say happiness, you mean like the science of happiness, like the positive psychology.
yeah, just books about how to be happy.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, everything from positive psychology to philosophy.
Yeah. And the one thing that just keeps coming up more than anything is the importance of relationships.
Yeah, every single book.
Every single one. And
Every
it was
single
so
one.
shocking to me. It was so shocking to me that this pattern came up. And in one of those books called The Good Life, it's basically about the longest running study on happiness in history, where they interviewed thousands of people over the course of 3 generations, asking them thousands of questions, taking thousands of measurements, trying to find patterns in all of these different walks of life of what really is it that makes people truly happy and healthy. And it wasn't what you think. After reading the whole book, do you know what the thesis was? Well, you do because you read it. What was it?
It's all about the quality of your relationships.
It's not how much you exercise. It's not how much you meditate. It's not how much you achieve or how much you succeed and how much money you make. It's about how good are your relationships. That was the common denominator. Whether they had billionaires on there, they had the guy cleaning toilets,
it's so true.
because he had the good relationships where he can come home to his family that loved him, and he had this amazing relationship with his wife.
Yeah.
He said, I'm happy. You know, I have all these things going on, but I'm happy. And it was because of his relationships.
You know what what that just reminded me of? Mom is from a small town in the mountains of Italy.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 people live in this town.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of money. They literally work the fields and at the oil plant.
They didn't have internet until like 2 years ago.
They
I'm just kidding.
they really don't have much.
Yeah.
But you know what they have? A sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
Every night they get together in the middle of piazza. They dance. They play bocce.
Yeah.
They walk across the town.
Remember the guy Reno?
Yeah.
Literally drank about 1,000 beers a day, smoked maybe 10 packs of cigarettes a day, and he lived until he was like 97.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I don't know if he lived to 97.
All right, he lived,
But
he
yes,
was mad old, bro.
He lived old.
He was like one of the oldest people in the town.
Yes.
He literally smelled like a walking cigarette.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we want to say that to condone smoking.
I'm not
Because
condoning it. I'm just saying, like, it goes to show that, like, the
yeah,
most important
but he
factor
might.
of your
Okay,
health
well, he might have been an anomaly. But
still.
the moral of the story here is that these people are happy.
Yeah.
Like they are genuinely happy.
Yeah.
And we as Americans come in and we have nicer clothes, more money in our wallet, right? More technology, all this. And I feel like we had more difficulties and more complaints, and these people had not one complaint. It was just like pure joy every night when they got together. And they joked, they laughed, they told stories. Like that was friendship.
Yeah.
The community was friendship.
100%.
And I think that's what's missing in the United States, by the way.
100%.
We don't, I mean, at least where we live right now, like when we were kids, I hung out on the block. Like we hung out in front of the building. We sat there. We went to the schoolyard. We played.
Yeah, you had your crew.
You had your crew, right?
Now,
And
the most connection you get is on Xbox Live or something like that.
yeah,
or
and I feel like I don't
Fortnite.
see that in like where on the block I live anymore. I don't see that connection happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's funny. You talked about kids, but I'm also thinking about adults like us in this like stage of life that we're in, like marriage and then wanting to start a family soon. And we have older brother and sister that already have a family. And once you like get to that stage of life and beyond, I think that is what this story with Doris was really like highlighting was life gets busy.
It gets
so busy.
Yeah, especially
Like between work and then you come home, you have to cook and then you clean and then you take care of the kids and then you got to do this and that. It's like a million things.
Yeah.
And so you just neglect friendships because it's like the last on your priority list because our society doesn't like it's the last thing that you want to think about is like at the end of all that shit, what do you really feel? You feel like I just want to sit down on my couch, turn on the Giants game and just melt.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything. Saturday, I want to relax. I don't want to see nothing. I don't want to do nothing. That's like how busy we've gotten. Mm-hmm. And it makes total sense. Mm-hmm. It happened to me. And this book, this chapter actually, once again, gave me an action that changed my life.
What was that?
This time I decided, you know what? I'm not seeing my friends enough. And specifically one friend, a really good friend of ours, Mike, I said, I really want to see Mike more often. And just like I have my lists and my to-dos and my calendars where I schedule in when I'm going to write this press release or, I don't know, do anything, go work out, I'm going to schedule in once a week meeting up with Mike. Once a week, I'm going to text him. I'm going to ask him what his schedule is at the firehouse. And I'm going to slot in even a simple lunch, a simple drink, something, anything. It doesn't matter what it is, where we go. It could be us sitting at home just talking over tea. It doesn't matter. But what matters was I created this like weekly cadence where once a week I reach out and we hang out at least once a week. And we've missed one out of the last like, I want to say 4 weeks or 5 weeks, but it's worked. It's worked pretty consistently. And it's been great to feel like that connection to him again.
Yeah.
Very.
I think a good question, though, to ask, because I'm sure everyone has a friend in their life that they haven't talked to in a long time. Who is a friend that you haven't spoken to in a while that if you were going to die tomorrow and you didn't reach out to this friend to see how they were doing, how their life was going, you would really regret it? Who's that friend? Whoever it is, reach out to them. Just give them a call.
I have an additional layer to that question for whoever's listening. And it's take some time to think about that friend when you choose who that is. Whoever it is, when you're with them, you always feel fucking amazing after. Like they always make you feel like a breath of fresh air. They always make you feel like I'm so happy we just did that. I'm so happy I just met up with them. Mm-hmm. Like it has to be someone who really enriches your life, like in a real way. Not like, don't do it just to do it. Do it because that person, every time you connect with them.
You miss them.
Yeah.
That's you miss them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
And I would say, I'll just add one little caveat. It can't be a text, because I
Oh,
know
that's
we're
good.
all just going right to the text because that's what it's so easy to do. It's like, but pick up the phone,
At the very least, pick up the phone.
see them in person or video or FaceTime them, but have that deeper connection than just reading the words on a screen.
Yeah. And I'm going to make this the longest call to action ever because I'm going to add one more thing.
All right.
One last quick thing. The best time to do that I've found is on a walk. If you're on a walk
Or a drive.
or even on a treadmill or a drive, like very passive things, instead of listening to that podcast that you were going to listen to, hopefully it's ours, just take right before you put it on, just make one phone call. You won't regret it.
Yeah. So maybe people are listening right now on their walk or on their drive.
Yeah.
This
Two people that
podcast,
are listening. Yeah.
this podcast is about to end, so make that phone call now.
Okay.
All right.
All right. That concludes episode 4 of Brolosophy. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Peace.
Peace.